Let's just jump right in. Look, if you build products, you already know that great decisions run on great information. But honestly, managing all that information, it usually feels like an endless, totally chaotic chore. So in today's explainer, we're going to look at a fundamentally better way to handle all this data. We're exploring the concept of a product graph, and specifically how the platform Specky uses it to transform your scattered product signals into actual shipped work. So if you're ready to see how a dynamic, living map can completely upgrade your product intelligence, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's do this.
We've all been there, right? You're just staring at your screen thinking, where did that customer insight go? Think about it. You had this brilliant customer call last Tuesday. The user explicitly spelled out the exact friction point that's stopping them from upgrading to your premium tier. You nodded, you understood it perfectly in the moment, but, well, now it's roadmap planning week. You need that exact quote to back up a feature proposal, and suddenly it has completely vanished into the digital ether. Honestly, it's a hyper-relatable frustration that plagues pretty much every product team working today.
And why exactly does it vanish? Well, it's because of these familiar graveyards where product intelligence essentially goes to die. Every insight ends up living somewhere totally different. You might have jotted down some rough notes in a Notion doc over here, or maybe a sales rep dropped a key piece of feedback into a massive, endlessly scrolling Slack thread over there. Or, and let's be real, perhaps the entire context is buried deep within a 45-minute Gong recording that absolutely nobody is ever going to sit down and rewatch. The data is there, sure, but it's disconnected, it's siloed, and practically speaking, it's totally useless when you actually need it.
Section 1. The product knowledge problem. Searching instead of building.
So the crucial point here is that there is a massive, costly imbalance in how we spend our time. On one side, you have all this time spent just finding information, and on the other, the time spent actually using it to make a decision. Traditional note-taking just completely fails product teams because it forces you to spend the vast majority of your energy hunting down context across like 10 different tabs. By the time you finally locate the insight, your mental energy is entirely drained, and the time you should have spent building and strategizing, yeah, that's completely gone.
Moving on to Section 2, meet the product graph, solving the knowledge problem at the root. Okay, so to solve this issue permanently, we really have to move away from static folders and traditional documents. And this is where Specky's design of the product graph comes in. By definition, a product graph is a connected graph database of everything that matters to your product. And this is a massive paradigm shift. We're not talking about a static filing cabinet where documents just go to sit in isolation. It's a living, breathing ecosystem where every single piece of data is completely aware of and connected to all the other pieces of data around it. Section 3. Connecting the dots, the anatomy of the graph.
Let's dive into this structure. It's built on 4 core components or nodes that categorize all your intelligence. First up, we have signals. This is basically the raw data flowing directly in from your integrations, so things like Slack messages, Gong transcripts, or Jira tickets. Second, we have insights. This is where you've taken those raw signals, from user research or support tickets, and distilled them down into clear, synthesized takeaways. Third, we have opportunities. These are the broader feature areas that are actually ranked by their potential customer impact. And finally, decisions. This literally tracks exactly what you chose to build and the reasoning behind why you actually chose it.
Now let's look at how these nodes interact to create a literal connected flow of information. Because every single node is linked. It starts at step 1 with a signal, like a Gong call. That raw call connects seamlessly to step 2, which is the specific insight extracted right from that conversation. Then, that insight links directly to step 3, the opportunity it supports on your roadmap. And finally, that opportunity connects to step 4, the final decision, tying in the product requirements document you wrote and the actual engineering tickets that got shipped. So you end up with this completely unbroken chain of context, from the initial customer quote all the way down to the shipped code. It's pretty amazing.
Which brings us to Section 4, the automation engine, how it stays up to date.
And this brilliantly illustrates the magic under the hood. Because look, a system like this is only useful if it doesn't create more administrative work for you, right? The graph actually updates automatically as you work, 0 manual copy-pasting required. For example, your new Gong calls are transcribed and tagged nightly. If you're using Alex research sessions, those produce insight nodes immediately. And as your engineering team works, ticket status changes from Jira and Linear sync straight back to the graph in real time. Plus, and this might be the coolest part, your AI assistant is actively monitoring the data, autonomously adding new nodes whenever it discovers a new pattern. It's basically a self-driving syncing engine that keeps your product intelligence alive and perfectly accurate.
Let's check out Section 5, your team's brain, querying and ownership.
Now, you might be wondering how you actually get data out of this thing. The
The beauty of this system is that you don't need to learn some complex technical query language like SQL to extract value from it. The AI assistant just understands natural language. You can simply ask a question in plain English, something like, "What are the top requested features from enterprise accounts this quarter?" And the AI instantly traverses the entire graph, connecting the user profiles, the signals, the insights, and the opportunities to deliver a synthesized, highly strategic answer in literal seconds.
Let's look at another incredibly powerful query example. You could ask, which decisions have we reversed in the last 6 months and why? Now, what's so powerful about the way this functions is that every single answer the AI gives you includes a complete source trail. It doesn't just hand you a summary and ask you to trust it blindly. Because of all those interconnected nodes we discussed earlier, you can actually click right through and see exactly where each piece of information came from. So you have absolute transparency and total confidence in the data that's driving your strategy.
And finally, let's talk about data sovereignty, because this is huge. All this incredibly rich, connected intelligence, it belongs entirely to your team. Crucially, all the data lives in your own Supabase-backed workspace, meaning you are never locked in. The whole shebang is fully exportable, you can query it directly outside of the interface, and you can even plug it directly into your own custom tools using their API. So it acts as this ultimate central nervous system for your team, but it always remains 100% under your control.
So we've seen how moving from scattered, disconnected nodes to a living, automated product graph completely changes the workflow of product management. It eliminates the friction of finding information, and it seamlessly connects the dots from raw signals straight to ship decisions. So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. If your product intelligence updated autonomously, what could you actually build with all the time you saved? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks some fresh ideas on how you manage your team's knowledge going forward.